Next question is, do I need any type of certification, training, or education in order to apply for a welding contractor's license? I have over 4 years of experience, but it's all through work.
So the qualifications, the requirements would be the same for any contractor license. 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. There is no educational requirement.
Yeah, it's a good time again to reiterate the fact is you don't have to go to one of the contractor license training schools. You certainly can if you think that's going to help you with the exam. We do again measure for minimum competency. So you don't have to be, an A contractor, or as far as like an A, like a grade A. We're looking for minimum competency. So you don't have any education requirements. The experience really is the big thing. And actually it may put you ahead of some people who have, some of the educational experiences because you're actually out there doing the work. Okay. Next question is, I am the only one with the experience. Can my partner, if I'm the only one with the experience, can my partner be a part of the license?
Yes. So whether it's a partnership or a corporation where there's more than one person on the license, you would let us know who the qualifier of the license is. As a reminder, the qualifier is a person with the experience. That's the person who is going to be responsible to have supervision of construction projects, and they are also the person who takes the exams.
Okay, next question. Is there a process for being added to an existing license?
So you can be added to an existing license. The licensee just needs to fill out a form and have you added to a license.
Okay, next question. Are there any resources for obtaining insurance and the insurance requirements? Well, we certainly do on our websites. We do have a link to, especially like workers' comp, but boy, there's just do a Google search. There are tons of companies around that do the insurance that specialize in construction, that and the surety bonds. That's probably better. We obviously can't recommend certain companies, but a quick Google search, you're going to find plenty of companies out there. Without having to fill out the application, is there a way to see where we're at with our credited work experience?
No, unfortunately, there's no way where somebody can look at your application before your certificate or your education before you turn in your application. It's once it hits at the text desk, they have a formula. They look at all of the classes that you have taken that they can give you credit for, and then they will let you know.
Okay, next question. I'll skip over. Kind of dealt with the same thing. Is there any way around the 4 years of experience, such as classes? So, yeah, you can get partial credit, but it's got to be something that's really connected to the kind of license you're getting. What if the apprenticeship is in another field other than the application?
And then just as a reminder, the maximum you can get is 3 years. It's not on a year-to-year basis. Just because you have the 4 years doesn't mean automatically you're going to get the 3 years, but like again, the technician will let you know. Apprenticeship program, we're looking for an apprenticeship program. It has to be linked to the classification that you're going to be going into.
Yeah, maybe it's an extreme example, but if you were trying to get a doctor's license, but you didn't have an apprenticeship in something medical, boy, I'd hate to be going to that doctor. Probably the same kind of thoughts. Okay, my husband has the work experience for other contractors for more than 10 years. Can I get a license with his experience?
If you were both going to be on a license, he would be the qualifier. You could both be on the license. You can't just use his experience for your own license, but if you were both on the license, he would be the qualifier because he has the experience. He would have to take the examination.
Now, can it be a situation where he can still, if he's already working for another contractor, can he do that and also serve as a qualifier for his own license or license with him and his wife?
You can be a qualifier on more than one license, yes.
Okay, let's see. Next question. Can someone be a certifier for an A license and not have a license? Yeah, again, that goes back to the experience. You don't have to be a licensed contractor to be able to certify somebody else's experience. If my experience is with an apartment company, properties owned by their employer, and they don't have a contractor's license, yeah, we're really concerned about the kind of work you're doing. They can certify that. Since they don't have a contractor's license, that wasn't required for them, so we're not going to hold that against you. Again, as I said, I think at the beginning, is we really want to work with you and anything you can our goal is to make sure that we've got qualified contractors out there performing the work. Anything you can do to prove that you've got the qualifications, we want to help you get there. So we don't want to be an impedance, but we want to make sure you've got the experience and that consumers are protected. How can a self-employed be certified? Now, we talked about this a couple times. The biggest thing, and then I'll let you speak a little bit again, are things like you need some kind of things, receipts, building permits, things like that. And anything else?
And we also went over the document that you can download from our website. There was a link that you can go back and click on. It lets you know what are acceptable documentation that CSLB would accept in the event that we asked you for further clarification to prove your experience as a self-employed person. There's a special column just for self-employed, so make sure you take a look at that.
Okay, and so what about situations, it says here, where there were home projects where there were no permits that were required for it?
If it's not verifiable, it's not something that we can take a look at. We won't be able to use it.
Okay, if the applicant is changing from a sole ownership to a corporation, will he or she lose the license to the corporation?
If you're going from a sole ownership to a corporation, you can do that. You would have to reapply. You're going to submit an application for a corporation. You can take your number with you. The reverse is not the same. If you were in a corporation, wanted to leave the corporation, now you want to apply for for a sole ownership license, you cannot take the license number with you. So there's special circumstances in each case.
Okay, next question talks about the women's resource list we talked about at the beginning. Right now, we're just trying to compile that. We've had some questions. One of our board members went through their Senate confirmation hearing, and there were some questions about women getting into the construction industry. They've asked us to do a bit of work. And so what we're trying to do at this point, we're trying to identify some resources that are available out there to women, find out if there's any voids in what's available, maybe that we can step in and put together some information. So if you've got any information, we'll give the address again at the end. Please send us any resources that you're familiar with. Or just let us know that you'd like to be kept in touch as we actually work to develop resources and make things available. The address, we'll give it at the end. It is social@cslb.ca.gov, and we'll show it up on the screen at the end, but social@cslb.ca.gov. Okay, next, can we work out of state with a C46? Now, the license is good for California, so maybe your question is, if you're out of state, can you get a California C46 license? Which the answer would be yes. You don't have to be your business based in California to have a California license, but your California license is not going to do you any good in Nevada or Arizona or Oregon. We do have reciprocity agreements with some of those states where it might help get their license in that state, but a California license is only good in California. We're pretty selfish about that, but that's we do all the work to get your license. We want you to be licensed here. Okay. How long does the application take? We've talked about that one. My ultimate goal is to get a B license. I'll be applying for my welding contractor license in the meantime. If I submit my transcript along with the welding contractor license to get an idea of what business classes will count towards the experience. So I guess at this point they ultimately want to get a B, but they want to get their welding license first. And they're talking about, using the experience.
Okay, so the experience required for the welding would be 4 years of experience in the last 10. Depending on how much credit they give you for your education, your business classes that you took, depending on how much they give you, remember you're looking for 4 years of experience requirement. When you went to apply, you can always add, let's say you start with your welding, you can add other classifications to your license. If you wanted to add the B in the future and you had the experience at that point, you could absolutely add it. There's a different process for that. We have a additional classification application that you would need to fill out, and you would only come back and take the examination for that additional classification, in this case, the B. As long as you can prove the experience, you have to have a certifier, certify your work experience, make sure that you have 4 years experience within the last 10 years. You can have that classification.
Okay. By the way, welding is C60, Anna. You and I, we deal with a lot of the classifications, but some of these we don't get a lot of questions on, so we're always trying to learn. So C60 is welding contractors. Okay, next question is, what type of military experience is accepted for the general contractor B license?
So what you're going to want to do is, as long as you had an honorable discharge, you're going to want to send in your DD 214 paperwork, and then they can tell you how much credit they're going to be able to give you for that. So you would have to supplement it with some hands-on training, hands-on experiences.
Yeah, and the thing about that is look at the website for the experiences. We do have a program in place to help expedite those, and we have people to work with military veterans. So please check that out and take advantage of the resources that are available for you. Next question, do I need a contractor's license for window tinting?
We have a window tinting license
It's
for buildings.
probably a D. I'll try to look while you're talking.
So yes, and it would be the same experience requirement. You would have to prove the 4 years within the last 10 years. Have somebody certify that for you.
Okay. I didn't talk long enough. I didn't find it. But anyway, look for the classifications on the website. Does a DBA name need to be the Secretary of State's office along with the corporate name? So again,
I'm sorry.
For the secretary, I just want to mention for the Secretary of State's, that's you're only required to file with the Secretary of State's office if you're going to be a corporation or a limited liability company, an LLC. Sole ownership, you don't need to, but you do need to. So the question here again is what are the rules if you are a corporation or LLC registered with the Secretary of State's? If you have a DBA, does that need to be on your registration with the Secretary of State as well?
We don't require that. Oh, well, whatever you have on registered with the Secretary of State, you want to make sure that everything matches here with us because we do compare. We don't require that you necessarily go and register your DBA with the counties or the cities. You need to check that with your local building official because they may require it. It's not a CSLB requirement.
Okay, next, can I still apply for my license if I have not journeyed out? I've been with the union for 5 years and will journey out in 3 to 4 months. I've worked for myself prior to joining the union, so I would also like to use those skills, I guess, and experience as well.
Mm-hmm. As long as you have 4 years of experience at a journeyman level, in total, you can use both experiences when you were working on your own and also what you've acquired with the union. As long as it's 4 years of experience within the last 10 years, you can combine that experience. Yes.
Okay, the next question talks about exams, asking if they're in Spanish. They are not, but Anna, do you want to talk about the translator and the process if you
Sure, absolutely. So as of right now, we only give the exam in English. You can bring a translator. There is a question number 16 on the application asks if you would like to bring in a translator. So if you check the yes box, we will send you a application that person needs to fill out. Again, you don't want to just show up on your test date with somebody ready to translate for you. CSLB does not offer translators as well. So you would need to get your person that you would like to serve as your translator pre-approved. And the way it works is that they're sitting in the same room with you, but at a different computer. You are communicating through a headset, and they simply read the question and the 4 answers. You select your answer. They don't know what answer you selected. You move on to the next question.
Okay, next question is, which class would the traffic signal electrician be? I know we've got a few different licenses that have to deal with. There's one, the C31 is construction zone traffic control, C32 parking and highway improvements.
What I would recommend is that you look at our classification booklet, read the description. If in the booklet you do not find the information that you're looking for, what you can do is you can send an email. We have a classification deputy. They need some information. What they would need from you is they would need to know what type of work are you going to be doing? What kind of materials are you going to be doing, using to accomplish what's going to be included, what's the scope of work in your contract. You can send in an email. The address is classifications@cslb.ca.gov. Again, classifications with an S at the end at cslb.ca.gov, and our classification deputy will email you back. It does take a little while, especially now with COVID. It may be 3 weeks before you get a response, but they will respond to you, and they will send you an email.
Now, if you want to find that on our website, the best thing to do is just go to the homepage. There's a search bar on there, just in classifications, hit search, and you'll come up not only the booklet that Anna was talking about, but there's also one there in HTML that you can just click on. It takes you to whatever classification is and gives you the explanation. So that's there. Just the search bar is a great feature. If you're having any problems finding anything on the website, the search bar will work really well for you. Okay, next question. Can I assume the same classes will count when I apply for my B class license? I've tried speaking to a supervisor before about this, as stated in the videos, but they've been told that the information cannot be shared with the public. Well, I guess that defeats the purpose of my being here. So I guess we'll just go to the question. Will the same classes count when they apply for a B license? I'm assuming that's as opposed to maybe a C classification.
So yes, the classes what we're looking for are construction related classes. So if they are good for your C, they'll be good for a B license as well. We're looking for 4 years of experience within the last 10. It doesn't matter when you took your education, you can still use it out, but we would need to see your transcript.
Okay, next question. Are there exams that can replace work experience? No. There, as Anna said, there's some, you can use some of your experience, college trade experience towards it, but there's no exams you can't test out and of that to replace the experience. Okay, I work as part-time 32 hours a week. Does that still count as 50%? I've worked for about 8 years for the same company. So 32 hours.
So, sorry, okay, so 32 hours. There is a, it does ask, it's either part-time or full-time, but in the application itself, then it will ask your certifier, whoever you're selecting to be your certifier, to let us know what the equivalent is. So they have to come up with the equivalent of how many, whatever your experience that you acquired with them, what does it translate over? How many years, how many months of experience are they willing to certify you for? So they can fill out that form. And that's going to be part 2 of the certification of work experience form that you'll want to take a look at.
Okay, next question. I am a civil engineer currently working on a company. Can I use the plans that I designed for a wastewater septic system as work experience?
No, you're going to have somebody certify you for 4 years of experience within the last 10. So that's how you initially prove your work experience. Somebody has to certify you. In the event that CSLB contacted you, they needed supporting documentation, yes, then you can send those types of documents in. But initially, all you need is somebody to fill out your certification of work experience.
Okay, next question. I did took my test 3 years ago and failed. I need some assistance in being test ready. Unfortunately, I'm not good in testing. Again, there are study guides on our website. There are on there, we also do list resources. So there's some resources. I encourage you to take a look at the law book that we have there. You can download it for free. You can also pay it. I think it's about $40 or so if you want to buy an actual hard copy of it. But there's a lot of information in the first 150 pages of the book that's really going to help you with the business and law exam. There's a lot of good information there that will really help you. Look at the resources on the specific trade that you're trying to get. Now, there are licensed instruction schools out there. You are not required to go through any of them in order to get the license. But if you think that's something that might be helpful, you might want to check. It is can be a significant investment of money, but you want to. There are good ones and some that may not be quite as good. So do some research, just like you would if you were purchasing anything. But there are resources. But I'd encourage you first to look at the Contractors Board, see the stuff that we have available to you. If you still think you need more, you may want to consider one of the licensed instruction schools. Okay. Does a field inspector qualify as a supervisor for the experience?
If somebody can certify that you have supervisory experience, as long as it's 4 years within the last 10 and somebody's willing to certify and talk to CSLB about your experience, we would be able to look at that.
Next one is, I have a regular job, but once in a while there's a job that comes up and 1 or 2 that are more than $500. Do I still need a contractor's license? Yeah, the law says any job that's $500 or more, you need to have a license for. It doesn't matter if you do them once in a while or if you do them every day or every week. Yeah, the law is just how big the job is. Don't break them down into $499 jobs. You might find yourself, especially if you're advertising for work, that you might find yourself being invited to a sting operation. So $500. Where can I get study guides? We just talked about that. If you have a problem finding them on our website, use the search bar on the homepage. Just type in study guides and you'll go right to them. Okay, next question has to do with, looks like criminal background. If a misdemeanor was committed in 2011, will that be a factor in criminal reviews? No, we're only looking back, I think 3 years, right, Anna, for misdemeanors?
For misdemeanors, correct.
Yes, that was 9 years ago, so it would not be looked at. Next question, do moving violations, speeding tickets qualify as to be listed as, it says misdemeanor? They will come up on your criminal background check. The laws have changed. You're not now required to disclose your criminal history. It'll show up on your the work that we do. Something like a speeding ticket is not going to keep you from getting your contractor's license. As we mentioned in the presentation, only about 1% of the contractors are kept from getting a license because of a criminal conviction. But speeding, we're much more concerned with violent crimes, fraud, things like that have to do with money that might put consumers at risk. Much more concerned about that than we are with speeding tickets. Can you clarify the certifier requirements? Can that person be a former customer?
So on the certification form at the bottom in section 2, it gives you different categories that the person can fall under. It can be an employer, a journeyman, a contractor. It doesn't have to be the contractor that you were working for. Maybe there's another contractor that knows that you have this experience and is willing to fill out your certification. It can be a fellow employee. It can be a union representative, a supervisor, or a business associate.
Okay, if I apply as a sole proprietor, can I use the business name that does not include my last name? And if so, will I need to register my DBA with the state? If you're just a sole ownership one, you don't. And we actually, as long as your name is, if you're talking about some kind of construction service, if you've got an electrical license, you need to make sure if you're going to include something about, JS electrical. It needs to be electrical. You can't have, JS plumbing if you're electrical. So we're more concerned about the name doesn't misrepresent who you are, the type of company you're having. You only need to register with the Secretary of State's office if you're a corporation or an LLC. Do I need to provide a copy of my proof of experience and Social Security history report if I have an ITIN number? No, just either one is good. If you have a Social Security number, you can use that. If you have an ITIN, you can use that. You don't need both. Next question. I work for an apartment maintenance company. I'm in charge of remodeling units. I install flooring, recessed lighting, drywall, paints. I also repair decks and build walls for drop ceilings. Does this qualify as experience? If you're trying to get a B license, that sounds like many of the things you would be doing to get a B license. Yeah, that's the kind of experience that would help qualify you. So you're going to definitely want to make sure you got the certifiers that could qualify that. Next is, I am taking over my father-in-law's business and I'll be leaving the name the same. Do I put him business name on, or do I put his business name on my application? So I'll say that again. I'm taking over my father-in-law's business and I'll be leaving the name the same. So do I need to put him onto my application? So I'll just say it this way. It's the situation, if you're going to be, in essence, this is changing a qualifier and changing the people on a license. If the company name is staying the same, you can make those changes to it. Anna's shaking her head, so.
Perfect. You can use if you're using a DBA or a business name that's already in the works, that's fine. We're not going to require anything further. We don't compare when you submit a business name. We don't compare it to our records to see if somebody else is already using that name. So if you tell us this is the business name that you want to use, we will go ahead and issue your license in that business name.
Right. We're much more concerned about, like I said, that it doesn't mislead people on the kind of work you do. Okay. And here's a specific question about section 4 of the application. It says, okay. In section 4, if there is only one individual, do the remaining sections need to contain NA or left blank?
NA. NA is fine.
Okay. Are the study guides contain the same amount of information that is found in books that are offered through online schools? It depends on the online schools. I mean, again, I would just encourage you to look at what we have there. If you think that you need more to assist you, then take a look at the schools. It's kind of hard to give a one-size-fits-all answer for that. Okay, and I'll just go over it again because you're asking about the free study guides. Yeah, we have a handful of questions for each one, and it talks. The important thing, it does talk about the different sections, the different types of things that are going to be covered on the exam. The resources also that we list there are the resources that the people, and we have. It's a very complex process that we go through to update the exams that get updated every 5 to 7 years. People from the industry do assist in that. The resources that they use to create the exams are the resources that we list on the study guides. So know that that's the type of information. And again, we do measure for minimum competency. So we're not trying to trick you. We're just trying to be able to, find out that you've got the experience and allow you to demonstrate that you will be a good contractor and that you know what you're doing. Okay, next. On the exam, on the wrong answers, do you get the correct answers afterwards, Anna?
No, you would not be provided with the correct answers, but you will get a statement, a document that lets you know what subjects, what percentage you got in certain subjects, and so you'll know that you need to go back and study up on that particular subject.
Okay, next question. Why do I need a bond?
Everybody needs a bond. It's a requirement for a license. So, but it really is a protection for you, because what happens is, let's say you start working and you think you're doing quality work and you know that you're standing by your work, it's up to industry standard, but the homeowner for some reason is not happy with your work. So what they do is they file a complaint with us, and we encourage them to file a complaint also against your bond. Your bond should conduct an independent investigation. What they do is they come out and look at they're supposed to come out and look at the project and see if the work was done to industry standard. If they determine it wasn't, then they may pay out to the consumer. You wouldn't, it's a protection for you, because the consumer doesn't have to sue you. They can go after your bond.
Okay, next, the applications must be accepted and approved prior to scheduling the exam, correct? And the answer is yes. Yeah, we can't schedule. It doesn't make any sense if there's an issue with the application. So yeah, it has to be accepted and approved first. Okay, next question is, on the study guides, you show the resources. I've gone to those sites, but there's so much information, I don't know where to start. Do I have to study everything you have under the resources on the study guide? For example, in this case, the C9 license, which is drywall. And I'll let you talk in a second on that, but I would just say is take a look at what we talk about as far as the sections, the kinds of things that are going to be covered in the exam. That might help you, zero in on that. And anything to add?
Yes, and with the license preparation schools, some contractors have come to us and told us that they have been helpful. They've been able to pass the examination after going to school, and some others have told us that they've paid thousands of dollars and weren't able to pass the examination. We thousands and thousands of questions in our test bank, and so it may be that you take the test today, and then you don't pass it, so you come back in 3 weeks. Maybe not one of the questions that was on your test today are you going to have in 3 weeks. We're just testing for basic knowledge. It's not, you just want to make sure you hit up all the subjects that you see on that study guide. It gives you a really good breakdown. It tells you the percentages, 50% is going to be based on this, 10% is going to be based on this. So you really just want to look at those subjects and study up on that.
Okay, next question talks about the bond again. Is it actually, you actually have to pay $15,000 or pay a bond company like an insurance company? Yeah, you pay a bond company like an insurance company. The bond, part of it, what they take into account is your credit history and some things, and they establish how much it's going to cost you. There are a lot of bond companies out there, so shop around.
Mm-hmm. It works very much like car insurance. Shop around. The coverage you need is $15,000, but there's different premiums out there.
Okay. Our company has a tree service license in different states. Can this render us exempt from taking the exams? No. The California license I mentioned earlier, all states are different. In some cases, though, it's going to be if you have a license in Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and I believe Louisiana. You take a look at our website, there's some cases where that can actually get you to waive the trade exam only. If you're licensed in one of those states, we do have a reciprocity agreement. Go to our website and in the search bar, just type in reciprocity, and that'll give you all the information. It'll show you which ones we have agreements with those states for which licenses. It may not necessarily be all the licenses that state has, but if we find that their qualifications are similar to what we require, we will let that be used to waive just the trade. You'll still need to take the business and law exam, but it may be able to help you waive the trade exam. Okay, if the corporation or partnership gets dissolved, will the license go back to the qualifier?
With a corporation, if the corporation gets dissolved, the license number stays with the corporation. You would have to reapply to get a sole license.
Okay, next question is, what type of license to build fences and decks? Would it be under one license? Well, I know the fencing is C13.
We have a fencing license.
And I'm not sure if the C5 or C6, which is framing, rough carpentry, cabinet work, millwork, I'm not sure if there's an actual one for just for decks. I would also look at C27, which is the landscape contractor. That one conceivably would be able to cover both of those. Okay. Next one, do you have to have a contractor's license to build and install cabinets? Build cabinets, no. Install cabinets, yes. But we're getting a lot of tests here on cabinets. That again is C6, the cabinet, millwork, and finished carpentry contractor. Okay, next question. Can we use our welding experience for a C46? C46 is solar, so I'm not sure what I don't know the trade well enough to know what kind of experience welding is going to go into it, but a solar contractor is much more than just welding. If welding needs to be done as part of the installation, so you may be able to get some credits, probably not a ton. Okay, next. I'm applying for a general B license. On the classification description booklet for the B, in addition to carpentry and framing, it mentions 2 unrelated trades. What specific type of work counts towards the work experience for the B license?
Our B license, if you keep in mind, these are people who can build a home from the ground up, and so that's what we're looking for. Yes, if you have the framing experience, then you would be able to qualify for the B license. But you want to include all experience you have in construction, because that's our general construction license. Things such as plumbing, electrical, any other experience that you have, you want to go ahead and include in that section.
Another thing I'd say too is the B license, technically you really should not be taking jobs unless 2 different trades in addition to the framing. As Anna said, it really is set up to be for the people who do major construction, who can construct homes, do major remodels, and include framing. Then if you also have electrical or plumbing or other trades that are included, if there's more than 2 different trades, you can take all of that on yourself. You can hire subs, the C classification subs, to do that work. If you have a B license and somebody wants to hire you just for an electrical job, you shouldn't be taking that. You're not legally qualified, even though you're under your B license, you can do electrical work. That's only if you've got the other trades as part of that contract. If you want to be just doing electrical jobs, you can get an additional classification. So you carry your B for the big jobs, and then if you're doing a lot of electrical jobs on the side, get a C10 electrical license and do it that way. But the way the law is set up is specialty contractors should be doing the jobs for specialty jobs. If it's a bigger job, that's when the general contracting license kicks in. Good morning. I have a BA in history from Sac State. Could my education be used for experience? I can't say 100% for sure, but I'm not sure, quite honestly, what a history degree, how that's going to help as far as maybe it's history of construction or some things that we do. But we're really looking for that practical experience, or the experience that's going to help you be a better business person. So on its own, my guess would be there probably wouldn't be a ton of experience credit you'd be able to get for a history degree. Next question, I would like to apply for more than 1 license. How do I go about doing that?
So when you first get your license, you're going to want to select one classification. Always begin with one classification. As soon as your license number is issued, you can add additional classifications to your license as long as you can prove the experience. We have an additional classification application. You would still have to have your experience certified. You would come back and take the exam only in the classification that you're adding. Once you do that successfully, we would add that classification to your license.
Okay, next one asks about what experience does a degree in architecture cover?
A degree in architecture, what experience would they get? That was a question?
Yeah.
Once we had your transcripts, we would be able to let you know how much experience you're going to get. Before, unfortunately, we couldn't let you know before.
Yeah, and some of it is, what kind of license are you trying to get? A general engineering license where there may be some pieces of that as opposed to a general contractor. So yeah, it's kind of hard just to answer that in real general terms. Next question is, are there sample tests on the website? You know what, I'm gonna say no. We do have sample questions on there, but to be honest with you, there's only a handful of questions for each trade exam. So there's not going to be a full-fledged sample test on the site. Okay, will getting your record expunged help in the criminal background portion?
No, unfortunately, even though you may have been told that your criminal record is expunged, anything with any felonies within the last 7, any misdemeanors within the last 3 will still show up, because we compare our backgrounds with the Department of Justice and also with the FBI. So even though it was expunged, it would still show up.
Okay, next question. Do I need a license to do pressure washing work for paint prep? Also, I've been painting for 4 years, but only small projects under $450 on my own. Is that okay? So the first part is the pressure washing.
The pressure washing we do offer under our D classification license, which means you would not have to, you would take just the business and law. You wouldn't have to take a trade exam. But yes, we do offer a license for pressure washing.
Okay, then the second one talks about 4 years of experience, but doing small jobs under $450 can they potentially get some experience?
So the way CSLB qualifies journeyman level is that you are able to complete a project from beginning to end without supervision. So if somebody can certify that you have journeyman level in experience in your trade, that you would want them to fill out your certification work experience.
Okay, and by the way, the pressure washing one, it looks like it's the C61D38, the sand and water blasting license. Okay, next question. Who determines when you start qualifying experience as a journey person? Is it the foreman of the company?
Again, journey level, what CSLB considers journey level is that you are able to complete that project from beginning to end with no supervision. So as long as somebody, it could be the foreman, it could be anybody, somebody who is willing to fill out the form that certifies that you have the experience at a journeyman level, we would consider that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the foreman.
Sorry, go ahead. Similar question to one we had before. Somebody has no experience in the industry, but their spouse does have the experience. What's the advice? The advice is you would get them to qualify the license, but you could be on the license as well. And then after you folks are doing that work for 4 years, if you wanted to become a qualifier, then that would then work towards that experience. You would need to both be on the license. Okay, next question. Is it possible to get a waiver if I have been working as a project manager and estimator for 15 years under your company's license? The person in charge is retiring and it's in his name under the company name, and his name is different. We're a class B. Okay, so he's asking, I guess he'll be taking, it's unclear if, so Don, if you want me to send additional information, actually, you know what? I'll try something here. Don, if you happen to be there, if it's like you're on your computer, I'm going to unmute you. Can you help clear up what you're trying to ask there? It's kind of unclear from your question. Don, are you there? May have caught him off guard here. Okay, well, I'll read it again. Maybe we can make. Is it possible to get a waiver if I have been working as a project manager and estimator for 15 years under your company's license? So he sounds like in this case he's an employee for a company. The person in charge is retiring, and it's in his name, and it is in his name under the company name. His name is different than the company name. Yeah, see, what's unclear here, Don, is if you're going to be taking over that license or if you just want to be able to use that experience to get your own license. And let's briefly talk about.
We can answer both. Should we answer both? Okay. So if you are trying to get the experience that you've been on this person, working with this person for 15 years now, you want to go and get your own license, you wouldn't qualify for a waiver. You'd have to apply just the process that we've discussed today. You would apply and you would have to take the examinations. If you are taking over that person's license and you're going to be taking it over, and that person's a qualifier right now, but you're going to be taking it over, you have up to 90 days to replace a qualifier. So if you can meet the experience requirements, he can come off the license as a qualifier. You can be added as a qualifier, but you will need to take the exam.
And next question talks about they already have a C license. What are the steps if they say it's upgrading to a B license, but in this case, it would be adding another classification to your license?
Sure. So we have an additional classification application that you would need to fill out. You would need to fill out the certifier the certification of work experience to prove that you have the experience for the B license. You would pay $150 as a fee for the additional classification. Once you pass the examination successfully, then the classification would be added to your license.
And let's extend that out, and let's say that you now have added the second classification. So you've got a B and then some C license. Let's say you decide you don't want to keep that C license anymore. Is there a process to take that connection off your license so when it comes up for renewal, you won't have to renew it? Do you just let it expire or do you cancel it? What's your situation?
If you want it removed, you can. The way it works though is your license, when you renew your license. You're not renewing per classification. So that $200, it's not going to be per classification. So you can leave it on your license. Let's say, for example, you have a B, but you also have a painting classification. If you are getting jobs that only require painting, then you might want to leave that classification on your license. It won't cost you anything more at time of renewal. You renew all of your classifications at the same time. And that the good thing would be that you would be able to take on just painting jobs. If somebody came to you and you only had a B license, if you had a B license and somebody asked you to paint their house, Remember, we're looking for 2 unrelated trades for every single contract on a B license.
Okay, next question talks about they've got the 4 years of experience. Do they need to take a class? No, you don't. No classes, no education required. If you've got that 4 years of experience within the last 10 years and you have it as experience, that's all you need. So no test required. Okay, does out-of-state carpentry qualify? And do I pay for, do I have to pay the application fee to find out? And I want you to talk about, for out-of-state, folks out-of-state looking to get a California license, that
Folks out of
process.
state trying to get a license in California, we will look at that experience. Experience obtained anywhere in the U.S., even out of the country. If you have experience that you obtained anywhere, we will look at it, but you have to have somebody complete your certification of work experience. So as long as somebody's willing to certify that you have at least 4 years of experience within the last 10, we will take a look at it.
Okay. This one we're not going to be able to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the most important material to review for a Class B license, which is a general contracting? All I say is everything. You're expected to know everything if you want that license. So over half of our licensees do carry a B class. So it's the most popular, but it's not an easy one to get because you are expected to know so much. So everything. I've worked for 7 years in construction, mainly framing. Can I be qualified for a B general contractor's license? Framing background.
Well, framing is one of the requirements for the B license, but it is our general construction. So you're going to want to include all the trades that you have worked in, not just the framing.
Yeah, and if you have an opportunity, you may need to focus on some of those before you can then apply for your license. You may not be able to do it overnight, but certainly look to expand. Again, we want to make sure you're going to be a good contractor doing that stuff. If you don't have experience doing those kinds of other jobs, it'd be really tough to have a license to do that stuff and then you not be good at it. Then that's going to get you in trouble. It's going to get complaints filed against you and it's going to put you in a position you don't want to be in, especially with courts and things. So, okay, I currently do automotive tinting. I'm a certified window tinter. Can I get any credit for being certified? I'm certified in automotive window tints, but would be applying for a window covering contractor's license. He's interested in flat glass work.
You can send it in. You can definitely send it in if you want it to be considered. But window tinting is different than residential tinting or window tinting for buildings. So I don't believe that they would be able to use that experience. But you can definitely try sending it in with your application.
Okay, next one. If I get my contractor's license, do I need to get an HIS, which is home improvement salesperson as well? What if I'm working with another contractor and bidding on jobs? Okay, so I'll try to make this simple. You, as a contractor, if you don't have any salespeople working for you, you don't have to have any HISs. If you do have somebody working for you who actually are putting together the contracts, negotiating contracts, getting people to sign contracts, those people do need to be registered with a contractor's board. Test to pass, but they do have a criminal background check that they have to pass. So if you're going to be using those kind of employees, they do need to be registered. What if you are working with another contractor and bidding on jobs? If I'll assume for the purposes of that question that you are not a registered HIS working with another contractor, maybe you're going in as partners on a job. Anna, what would be the rules there for if you want to go in together with a different contractor as both of you?
If you're licensed and that contractor is licensed, then you wouldn't need an HIS. You couldn't contract for yourself. That contractor can contract for his business. HIS only comes into play when you have, like Rick mentioned, if you have an employee who is going to be negotiating on your behalf.
And the cases where if somebody is just setting up appointments or if they're just there's companies out there that just do lead generation, those people do not have to be registered. But as soon as they start getting involved in contracts, negotiating and doing that, that's when the the registration kicks in. Okay, next question. I used to live in Saudi Arabia. I'm an architectural engineer. Does my 14 years of experience count towards contractor's license? I was a project manager there, graduated from college in 2004. Very similar to some of the other questions we're having. It's hard to get too specific. Obviously, it appears 14 years experience doing that kind of stuff. It's hard to tell you for sure how much we're going to be able to accept of that, but there's probably a good chance. But there's the steps that we've talked about here that you're going to have to go through to get that judged and get your application in. That question's come up a couple times now. Okay, I have no experience and would like to obtain a contractor's license. What should I do first? jokingly, I'm going to say you should move to Nevada first. No, the thing is, though, is that that's a critical part of having your contractor's license is having the experience to qualify. So if you've got no experience being a contractor, you're really not qualified to get a contractor's license. Now, the law does allow you to get a qualifier to qualify and to have that experience and to pass the exams. We'll leave it at that. Those are the requirements. If you can get somebody to qualify that license for you, you can work towards that. But without that experience, there's really no ways to cheat and to get around that. It's important to have the experience before you can be a contractor. There is a value to the license. And if they just start giving it out to people who don't have the experience and things, then that's going to really decrease the value of it. Okay, I've been working for a contractor for 4 years and he pays cash. How can I document and use that towards your experience?
So as long as somebody is willing to, maybe a fellow coworker, somebody can is willing to fill out your certification of work experience and tell us what the duties are that you've been performing, we can start. That's a starting point. It does not have to be your employer who fills out the form. And we understand that people are being paid cash. We definitely will look at that experience.
Okay, the next one is talking about somebody who has a bachelor's in electrical engineering and they're applying for C39, which is roofing, potentially any credit for that. And I know we're getting a lot of questions. They're getting very specific. It's really hard to say. Chances are you're going to be able to get some, but it's going to be real critical. You've actually got the experience doing the roofing. And no matter what, even with the full credit for education that you're going to get, you're still going to need to have some practical experience. So I'd say, I'm sorry we can't get more. You know, if we're leaving you with an empty feeling with the answers, it's hard to say. You could get some, but it's critical that you got some of that practical experience. And it's also going to make you a better contractor if you've actually got the practical experience. Okay, I have an international bachelor's. Okay, here we go. This is a good question because we haven't touched on this yet. If I have an international bachelor's degree, should the transcript be sealed? I also finished HVAC college. Should I send both transcripts? If you can just talk more in general about the process of doing transcripts and the fact they should not send not have the school send the transcripts, they should get them themselves. So you can just go over that, Anna.
Sure. So even with international degrees, you definitely want to get the transcript sent to you. And if it's in any language other than English, it's going to have to be translated. So it doesn't have to be sealed. You can unseal it and go ahead and get it translated. If it's in English, leave it sealed. Send it in with your application packet. You don't want to have them send it directly to CSLB. You want to go ahead and have them sent to you, and you mail it in with your application.
Okay, for partnerships, do both owners have to be licensed?
With the partnership license, one of the partners, and you're going to let us know who is going to be the qualifier. That's the person with the experience. That's the person who will take the examination.
Okay, do all past employees have to fill out the certifier experience description section? I no longer have contact with some of the previous employers who can attest to that work experience.
I think we kind of covered that. No, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be your employer. We're looking for somebody who can certify 4 years of a journeyman level experience.
Okay. Yeah, the next one talks about contractor doesn't want to sign. He got paid cash for 8 years and doesn't want to sign it. That puts him in a pretty tough situation because it's tough to be able to prove that. Can I discuss the process of getting a contractor's license without qualifying experience? My dad's been a plumber for 40 years, but won't do the process to get his own license. I'd like to get a license, start a company, but he'd run all the building operations. You need the qualifier. If dad's got the experience, dad's going to have to be involved in that license unless you go and you get another person to qualify it. But yeah, definitely you can't be a qualifier without the experience.
Both of them could be on a license. If they wanted to get, a license between the two of them, dad would have the experience, dad would have to take the exam.
Yeah, it sounds like in this situation, dad doesn't want to. So yeah, definitely he would need to, or you would need to find somebody else to qualify. Okay, different same question about does the application accept and approve prior to scheduling? Yes. Yeah, because we don't want it to then come back and be wrong and then delay you again. So we want to get that taken care of first. I want to get a C10 and a C7. Do I need to go through the application process twice? First thing you do is figure out which one you want to get first. You go get that one, you take the exams, and then once you get that license, you can go and you can add the other classification. At that point, you only need to take the exam for that new classification. You don't need to take the business and law over again. I have an LLC for my welding business. Will I have to obtain another one for my solar panel business?
No, not necessarily. It's you're going to let us know that you're already an LLC. You wouldn't have to even get two licenses. It'd be one license, two different classifications on the license.
Next is where do I find the link for the application? Go to our homepage. We've got sections across the top. One of them talks about applicants. If you're not sure, you can't find it, just go to the search bar, type application or forms or something. You'll get the applications pretty quickly. Okay, another question about the apartment complexes we've answered before. That potentially could go towards your experience. Study guides in Spanish, and I don't believe our study guides are in Spanish this time.
They're not.
It says, can we transfer the license into my name? What's the process of, if there's already an existing license, of becoming a qualifier or getting something put into your name?
So when we're informed that a qualifier wants to come off a license or change of a qualifier, you have up to 90 days to replace a qualifier. They do have to prove their experience and they do have to take the examination.
Okay. Next one is somebody who's been working for a public agency for a number of years. Can they use that that experience working for a public agency as an electrician in this case?
If you have the experience at a journeyman level, you want to go ahead and have somebody fill out your work certification form and we will take a look at that experience.
Okay, we've got somebody here who used to be involved in a union, didn't finish their journey because they started to work on residential jobs. Can they use any of that apprenticeship if they didn't complete it? Can that be used towards it?
We would need somebody to say that you had journeyman level experience.
So just going through it, seeing a lot of repeating questions here.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of the questions are very specific about the experience and being able to document that. So in some cases, if the people aren't there anymore or they're out of state and they've gone out of business, yeah, it does make it challenges. Look for things if you do have. I mean, pay stubs in some cases might be helpful. If there's job reviews, if there's other things that talked about, duty statements and things, we want to try to work with you to document that, but we need to be able to be confident that you're not just blowing smoke at us, that you actually have the experience. Okay, so next, I do multiple types of work: electrical, plumbing, concrete. I've been doing this for 5 years. Would I be able to get all three classifications? Yes, one at a time, though. To get the one, find the one maybe you've got the most experience in, or the one you're most anxious to get to work in. Get that one, then add them on.
You can add as many classifications as you can prove the experience for.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about contracting is you can be a small one-person operation, you can grow it and have a few employees, you can become a big, huge contractor and get public works jobs or big things. The sky really is the limit. Yeah, a lot of these are very similar to what we've asked earlier to talk about other relatives that have the experience. What I would suggest, as we're getting close to the end on time here, is we're getting a lot of the same questions again. So I'd encourage you to go back and watch the presentation and watch the Q&A because we've covered a lot of these things. So I'm sorry if I've skipped over yours specifically, but this is a lot of the information we've covered. Okay, asking here, can I apply as a sole owner, then switch to an LLC or a corporate company afterwards with the same license? You talked a little bit about that. That's a fairly common thing to do. I think I mentioned 2/3 of our licensees are sole owners. About 1/3 of them are corporations. So Anna, just quickly again, what is the short process of switching from a sole owner to, let's say, a corporation?
You would have to fill out a new application to switch from a sole owner to an LLC. So you'd have to fill out the application. But if your sole owner license is in good standing, you wouldn't have to do any of the fingerprinting or testing requirements, obviously, if your LLC is going to be in the same classification. So it's just, but you would have to pay the application fee. So you're going to want to apply for LLC. You fill out that application.
Okay, next, let's see, we only got a couple minutes left here, but which license is appropriate for what they're calling a construction management company, an A or a B? If an A is the experience required by the qualifier in the engineering field, or can it be in construction and project management? The A license is the general engineering contractor, so there's got to be some engineering experience in there. The B is a general building contractor, so that's where you're building, and part of that job is they are prime contractors for jobs, so there is project management involved in there. So unless you've got that engineering experience, chances are you'd be more likely for a B license. I'm flipping properties. It's been more than 4 years and all properties are sold with my name. I've worked and supervised those. Can I qualify for owner builders and how can I put my experience in the application?
You're going to want to, you can try to fill out the owner builder. It's on our website. Are they asking where they can get it? It's on our website. If you have permit numbers that you can verify the information, it has to be verifiable experience. So as long as we can verify the experience, we can look at it to qualify you for the 4 years within the last 10.
Okay, we'll take one more here and then we'll wrap things up. So following up on a DBA question, a doing business as, if a corporation is called ABC Construction, has a B and a painting classification, so two classifications, then they file locally as corporation doing business as ABC Painting, does ABC then need to get a license with CSLB as well? So it sounds like in this case, the license is for this ABC Construction, and it has both a B and a C33 classification. Then they want to change, which says you want to file locally as a corporation DBA. Well, I'm not sure who you'd file that locally. Is that for a business license? I mean, you would file the DBA with us. And if that's the case, we probably, I don't know, Anna, would we have an issue with somebody that's got a B and a C33 calling them ABC Painting? They can have
no, they can use many DBAs. So as long as they're, they let us know, they can have different DBAs. That's not a problem.
Each license can have, I mean, for a license number, they can't have more than one DBA on a license number, though, can they?
As long as they, yeah, and they're going to have to check with their local building officials to see what their requirement is about registering it with them. But with us, as long as they let us know, yeah, they can use DBA painting, the DBA with a painting.
Right, but they can't have two different DBAs. They can't say doing business as ABC Painting and ABC Construction. You can't have two different DBAs. You just got to tell us one. Part of the thing that we want to avoid here, we want consumers to be able to avoid, is them not knowing who they're contracting with. When you start getting into these things with a lot of different company names, and I'm not sure who I have this contract with, that's when you start running into problems. That's when we start getting lots of complaints, and that's one of the challenges. Okay, so I think we pretty much got through everything. Like I said, we're seeing a lot of repetition on there, so I think we're in a good place. If we didn't get your question answered, go back and listen and go through this thing. Chances are we probably answered the question. If you need to, you can always drop us an email. So at this point, we're going to wrap things up, and thank you for the questions. Now, if you do have any other questions about your application, we would encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. The address is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. There you see it on the screen. For licensing questions, it's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If you have down the line in the process where you want to reschedule an exam potentially, or if it's exams being canceled with COVID, there have been situations where we've had to close the center for a day or two and maybe have to reschedule, or if there's a power outage or something like that. If it has to be rescheduled, exams at cslb.ca.gov would be what you would send your email to for that.
And just a reminder, we are trying to identify the available resources specifically targeting women considering a career in construction. So please let us know what's out there, especially if there's a void that you think that CSLB can fill. Please send us an email, social@cslb.ca.gov. That concludes today's workshop. An archived version of this will be placed on CSLB's YouTube channel. We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email at the same address, social@cslb.ca.gov.
A special thanks to our licensing division and other staff who helped work on this workshop with us. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thanks for watching. Stay cool. Have a good weekend.